The other thing about good dialogue is that it beats around the bush. Nobody ever comes right out and says something. Instead, what they do is they hint at things.
Right.
And so that ends up being subtext. And subtext is dialogue plus action. It's never only the dialogue usually, it's dialogue plus action. So if I am sitting in a cinema seat and there is and my line of dialogue is, can I sit here? Is it okay if I sit here? That line of dialogue changes meanings if it's a gigantic, huge, ex-convict with tattoos all over them, or if it's an attractive member of the opposite sex. But the same line of dialogue has two different meanings there because of the situation. And one of the things we want to do is, again, that's the dialogue's not carrying the story there. It's part of the visual, and the verbal is a movie. But characters often hint around at things and never come right out and say them. And that's good dialogue too, because if you think about characters as I like to think about it, it's a first date. You're on a first date. You aren't going to immediately ask, so, you ever been married? You divorced? Instead, what you do is say, well, how do you feel about, something that seems neutral, and it's the neutral way to get the information.
Right. You
ask questions like, you never ask, so how do you feel about equal rights and responsibilities, when really what you want to ask is, you just ordered this lobster plate, it's going to max out my credit card, could this be Dutch? You sort of hint around at things, and that's how people really talk, or at least that's what seems real on film, is if characters don't come right out and say things, if they hint around. And that again comes with, once they hint around, the audience either knows or does not know what the reality is. And so we get either we're learning information from how they respond to the hints, or we already know information and we're going, they're trying to hide this information.
Hidden agenda talk.
Hidden agenda talk, yeah. So that ends up being, and a lot of hidden agenda, we all have our hidden agendas no matter what it is. If we're on the first date, our hidden agenda is learning as much about that other person as we can to figure out if there's going to be a second date. And so we're always trying to feel out the situation by sort of trying to find the neutral question that gives us the information if possible. So we may not come up with a direct question, we'll find the indirect way to find that information. So that's like a subtext element thing.